right, so now we're going to finally dive into chapter 8.1, which is looking at the first type of costing method, which we know, right? We've been doing this for period. We're going to be looking at the same three that we did for the periodic inventory, but this time we're looking at doing it for the perpetual inventory, okay? And we're going to be looking at FIFO, LIFO, and instead of weighted average, we're going to be using moving average because we're constantly purchasing, constantly selling, so we're moving the average along. All right, so once again, just a little quick update of each one. So again, FIFO means first in, first out, right? Think of it as if you're selling groceries, right? Things that have an expiration date. You're obligated to sell anything that has an expiration date first, because if you leave it to last to sell, they're going to spoil, all right? Whereas we're looking at things for LIFO, which means last in, are usually the first ones to sell out. So usually a common one would be something like an electronics store, right? Usually the newer and later models are sold first versus the older models, right? And of course, moving average is when you have something that you're constantly purchasing and constantly selling. So any natural resources such as water, right? A staple that you don't care what batch came first, because in this case, it has a long shelf life. And especially for water bottles, right? You can keep them for a long, long time. It doesn't matter what came first, what came last. Your general idea here is you don't care, but you do want to make sure that you cost them all evenly by taking an average between the total cost of purchases and the total number of quantity of items you have available. So then that's again, it just depends on what kind of item you are selling in your store. That could result in either or, okay? And of course, last but not least, specific ID, which we were not going to be looking in this class, all right? But we're going to be taking a look at the first method, which is going to be the first in, first out method, all right? But this time, we are looking at it in a perpetual standpoint. So in this case, right, the first three, calculating the purchase price, the total cost, and the cost per item, those three are going to stay the same. However, when we're looking at determining the cost of goods sold or the goods available is going to be whatever you're going to be transferring into your inventory on hand, right? It's going to be your total quantity times the total cost per item to give you your total cost. So in this case, this one will always be given and be known to you because you're going to be constantly calculating and updating and keeping them in order of batches that you purchase. So making sure that so you know how many goods available you have at all times, okay? Cost of goods sold. So once again, we're going to be introducing into a new table for the cost of goods sold that allows you to calculate how much each item is going to cost you to sell, right? Hence the word cost of goods sold. So in this case, our table is going to be looking at quantity, the cost per item, which we're going to be calculating per batch, and how much the total of that cost of goods sold is going to be, so we can subtract it out of our inventory. And of course, ending inventory is going to be taking our goods available, subtracting out our cost of goods sold. So in this case, we're going to be looking at total cost minus the cost of goods sold, which should give you your ending inventory. Okay. So here's a good example right here. Scenario here. So on June 1st, we purchased toys. We purchased 100 toys costing $1.50 each. $1 each, with the freight costing you $25. So $1.25 costing plus freight of $25 to give you a total cost of $150, right? So we're going to bring it up to our table again. So as you remember, right, our table has 3 sections, right? In this case, we're not dealing with cost of goods sold. We're dealing with purchases. So therefore, we're going to stay in the middle section, right? We're going to enter in our numbers just as is, right? We bought a purchase. We purchased a total quantity of 100 toys, costing the unit price of $1.25, with the freight costing $25. So in this case, my total purchase price, right? 100 times $1.25 is going to give me $125, plus $25 to give me a total cost of $1.50. And of course, my cost per item is going to be 150 divided by the total number of quantity of items I have, which gives me $1.50 for each item I sell. All right. And for this class, I'm going to go ahead and use colors so we can kind of keep track of where everything is. So I'm going to go ahead and make this yellow. Okay, so that's my very first batch that I've purchased, right? So therefore, the next day, right, next scenario here is that on June 3rd, you sold 55 toys for $5 each. Okay, so just like how we've been journalizing, we're going to recognize my sales, right, because I sold each toy at $5. But, right, how am I going to calculate my cost of goods sold, right? So this is where we're going to go ahead and go back to our table and say that, okay, well, I sold 55 toys, right? In this case, let's look at my purchases. How many batches do I have? I only have one batch, right? And in this case, how much is it going to cost me to sell from this batch per item? $1.50, that's correct. So I'm going to take this number, right, the $1.50, and I'm going to plug it into my cost per item right here under my cost of goods sold column. And therefore, I'm going to calculate what it cost me to sell 55 toys. All right? So in this case, what is 55 times $1.50? $82.50, right? So now that I calculated my cost of goods sold, right? So in my journal, if you guys remember, right? It cost me $82.50 to sell, right? I only have one batch of inventory, so right now it costs me $1.50 per item. So in grand total, it cost me $82.50. Now, here's the crucial part. I need to update my inventory so I know how many items I have on hand at all times. So what I'm going to essentially do is I'm going to subtract 55 right here in my purchases. I'm going to subtract 55 items, right? And it's going to cost me a total of $82.50, right? To bring me now available is going to be 45 items, costing me a total of $67.50. So that is exactly why I need to calculate my cost of goods sold so I can enter it into my inventory worksheet and calculate and update my inventory so that now my first batch is no longer 100 items anymore. It's now 45. And I know that because I calculated my cost of goods sold and I'm updating my inventory. And this is how I update it. Okay? Does this make sense now? Why I need to calculate my cost of goods sold? What it costs me to sell these items is what I'm calculating right here. It's going to cost me $1.50 per item that I sell, and I sold 55 of them to give me a grand total of $82.50. So therefore, I don't have $82.50 anymore because I got rid of it. It's gone from my inventory. So therefore, I need to take it out from my inventory to reflect right here. Then now I have 45 items costing me now a grand total of $67.50, which of course, if you break it down, it's still $1.50 per item. Okay. Any questions here? Okay.
This is the FIFO. Is this FIFO and the LIFO? Is this the same?
What do you mean LIFO and FIFO is the same?
Costing costing method is the FIFO.
This is FIFO. If you're talking about how we're going to keep track of them and making sure that we sell our first batches first, yes,
Mm-hmm.
that idea is all the same. However, when we sell a product, right, we're going to be moving along and costing as we go. Whereas periodic inventory, we do it at the end, at the very, very end of the given period, right? In this case, we're taking and subtracting out my inventory as we go, as we sell. So in this case, right, I only have one batch. So the FIFO method, right, we only have one batch. So I'm only dealing with one batch right now. But let's go ahead and see what happens when we're introduced into two more batches. Okay. So once again, here, on June 5th, we purchased another 100 toys at $1.28 with the freight costing me $26. Okay, so now I'm going to plug that into my inventory worksheet, right? I purchased 100 items at $1.28 with a freight of $26 to give me a total purchase price of $128 plus $26 to give me a total cost of $154. Which now, if I calculate my cost per item, it's going to be $1.54. And because this is my second batch of inventory, I'm going to make it another color. So then now I'm dealing with two batches. So the next time, if I end up selling something, which batch am I going to take out from? I'm going to be taking out from my yellow batch because that batch came first. Okay? All right? Does that make sense, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, the concept of first in, first out is still going to be the same. However, the only difference is that every time we sell something, every time we purchase something, we're going to update our inventory. So right now, I have 145 items, but I must keep them separate because I care about which batch came first. I'm not going to add them up together. I'm going to make sure I keep them separate. All right? And I'm still going to use the idea. Okay? But then on June 10, I ended up purchasing an additional 100 toys for $1.30 with the freight costing $27. So in this case, right, I'm going to do the same thing, and I end up color coding it to a third batch for the green for an additional 100 items, costing me a grand total of $157, which cost per item is going to be $1.57. Okay, so now I have 3 total batches of inventory, right? I have my yellow one, which is right now holding at 45 items. I just purchased a new batch of the red one for 100 items, and I just purchased another green batch of another 100 items. So now I have 3 total batches of inventory that I can choose from to go ahead and calculate my cost of goods sold. But in this case, right, we're using FIFO. So the next time we sell something, we're going to start off with our yellow batch. Okay. So right here on June 12th, we end up selling an additional 120 toys for $5 each. Okay? So how are we going to calculate this cost of goods sold? Okay? So we're going to take a look, right? We need to sell a grand total of 120 items, right? If we're using FIFO, right, which batch are we going to take out from first?
The yellow batch.
We're going to take out from the yellow batch first, right there, right? We're going to take the yellow batch of 45, which cost me $1.50, which in this case, I don't need to calculate 45 times $1.50 because I already know it's going to cost me $67.50, right? But once again, I'm going to cell reference that so that I know where this batch came from, all right? Now, of course, I need to sell a grand total of 120. So if I've already sold 45 from my yellow batch, what's the second number that we're going to, what's the second batch that we're going to take out from?
So now you need 75 more.
Correct,
right?
to get a
And
grand
you'll
total.
take it from the red batch.
Correct. So
But
let's,
I'm sorry, how did you get to the number as to how many you need to get all together?
that's just a scenario. I just said
You
here that
right
we
there?
sold, we just, on that day, we just sold 120.
Okay, so that's your goal.
Yes.
Okay, I think I got it. All right.
Okay. So at the end of June 12th, your sales representative came up to you and said you sold 120 items. Okay. So now the inventory manager, which is this right now, we need to calculate that we sold 120, right? And we need to update our inventory to reflect that. So as we mentioned before, you're going to take from the yellow batch first, right? Now the yellow batch, like I've mentioned before, right? It's going to cost me $1.50 to sell. So I'm going to take that $1.50 and I'm going to transport it into my column here on the cost of goods sold. And I'm going to place it here to calculate a grand total of the $67.50, right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it out from my inventory, right? I'm going to take it out from my inventory because I no longer have 45 items anymore. So therefore, my yellow batch should be now down to 0 because I got rid of my yellow batch. It doesn't exist anymore because I got rid of everything in that batch. Okay? So here, now we still have to sell 75 more, which Kim said that we need to take it from our red batch. So how much is it going to cost per item for my red batch? $1.54, right? We calculate this number. So that means every item I sell is going to cost me $1.54 per item. So in this case, I'm going to calculate 75 items multiplied by that $1.54 to give me a grand total of me selling those 75 items for a grand total of $115.50. Okay? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take it out of my inventory. So I'm taking my red batch, right? I'm taking 100, subtracting out 75 to give me a grand total of 25, right? If in grand total it costs me $154 to have for those 100 inventory items, and I am going to subtract out what I sold, which was the $115.50, I should have a remaining amount of $38.50 left for those 25 items, which again should still cost me $1.54 for all of them, of course. And I'm also going to calculate this right here because in my journal, I need to reflect as a total amount, not individual, not saying, okay, this is batch number 1. I'm selling 45 items. No, I sold 120. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two numbers together, right? So 45 from the yellow batch, 75 from my red batch to give me a grand total of 120 items I sold, giving me a grand total cost of goods sold to be $183.00. Okay, 183 even. Okay. So that's how we're going to be calculating our cost of goods sold. So now I have a remaining inventory, right, of a red batch for 25 and a green batch for 100 items. Okay? Which, of course, on the very last day, so here on June 15, you should have been given that you have 125 toys available left on hand. Okay? And we do. We have the red batch of 25 and 100 green batch right there. Okay? Any questions?
I got a lot of erasing to do. I filled out my inventory sheet wrong.
Okay. That's okay. We're going to do it together so we can kind of understand. So then tomorrow, it will be a lot more easier to do.
Okay.
So then, we also have to take a look at when we're looking at inventory, right? We're looking as if we're going to have a beginning balance. So here, right, we already know that our ending balance is that we were left with 125 toys, right? Costing at a grand total of $195.50. So when we are dealing with beginning inventory, this is pretty straightforward, especially when we're looking at our inventory worksheet, because all you got to do is just transfer the information over into the inventory on hand. So as we know here, right, June 15, you should have a total of 125 toys available on hand, okay? So when we carry our information over, we're going to carry over them in batches, right? Right, my red batch came first, then my green batch came afterwards. So we're going to keep it exactly like this. So my red batch is 25, right, at $1.54. And we have my green batch of 100 for $1.57. And we're going to transfer the information over. Okay? So that's my beginning inventory. So then the first thing that happened was that on June 18, we end up selling an additional 90 toys for $5 each. So now we're going to bring it back to my table. Okay? We sold 90 items, okay? So in this case, if we're using FIFO method, right? Which batch are we going to take from first?
The red batch.
We're going to take from the red batch. In this case, we only have 25 units in my red batch. So therefore, I need to get a grand total of 90 toys. So therefore, I need to dip into my second batch, which is my only batch that I have left remaining, which is my green batch, right? So whatever 90 minus the 25 is, should give you 65. Okay? So in this case, once again, I'm going to be taking my numbers here. So the cost per item for my red batch is $1.54, which is going to calculate to me a grand total of $38.50, right? Which in here, I'm going to go ahead and subtract that out to get rid of my red batch of inventory. Okay. And then now all I'm left with is my green batch, which cost me $8.57. So I'm going to take that number and I'm going to transfer it over here under my cost of goods sold because I only had that batch left. That's the only one I have left. And I'm going to calculate it right now what 65 items sold costing at $1.57 is going to give me a grand total of $102.05. Which, once again, I'm going to update my inventory, subtract it out to give me now a green batch of 35 remaining, right? I went from 100, subtract 65 to give me a total of 35 items remaining, right? I started out with 157, subtracted out 102.05 to give me a remaining balance of $54.95. Which again, the cost per item is still $1.57, right? I calculated my totals here. I sold for surely 90 items at a grand total of $140.55. Okay. So everyone good with me so far? So here the idea is that every time we make a purchase, we update our inventory. Every time we sell, we update our inventory. Okay, and how we update our inventory is that we're going in between, we're weaving in between the transactions. We're not waiting till the very end to calculate our totals. No, we're doing it as we go. Every purchase that we make, our inventory is going to increase. Every sale that we make, our inventory is going to decrease. So in this case, we're constantly moving through our inventory. We're constantly updating our inventory based on what the scenario is, whether we made a purchase or whether we sold items. Okay. So then, once again, let's go ahead and go fast forward. So here on June 21st and June 25th, we made 2 purchases of 100 toys, one for $1.32 and one for $1.35. Freight 26 and 27. Okay. So once again, we're going to plug those numbers into our purchases area. So here I recognize my first one, which is the 100 items at $1.32, giving you 132, plus my freight of 26 to give you a total of 158. Which in this case, I calculate my cost per item to be a total of $1.58. And once again, I'm going to color code it so I can keep track of where my batches of inventory goes. All right, so in this case, I'm going to make it blue. All right. Same thing with the next scenario, right? We purchase another 100 toys at $1.35 with the freight costing $27 to give you a grand total of $162 to bring your cost per item to be $162. And once again, I'm going to color code it and I make it the third. So technically this is my third batch because I got rid of my red batch. So I only have 3 batches remaining. My green batch, which is left remaining 35 units. I purchased a new batch of blue for 100 and I purchased a new batch of orange for another 100. Okay, so I have a total of 3 batches of inventory that I can choose from, which in this case, I'm keeping the same order, right? I'm keeping it at FIFO, which is first in and first out. Okay. So in this case, I sold 120 items. So in this case, right, which batch am I going to take from first?
The green one, the 35.
Yes, when you take away from the 35 first, which we know is to be $1.57, which gives me a grand total, like as we know, is going to be $54.95. We're going to subtract the green out. So then the next batch that we're going to take out is going to be the blue batch, which we know to be $1.58. So therefore, we calculate to give me a total of $134.30. And what we're going to do is we're also going to subtract it out from my inventory. So then now I started with the 100, subtracted 85 to give me a remainder of the blue batch to be 15. Okay. Last scenario here is we sold 65 more toys, bringing our ending balance as of June 30th to be a total of 50 toys. So once again, we sold 65. We're going to take from our blue batch because that came before the orange batch. Blue batch of 15, right? And therefore, I need to sell a total of 65. So therefore, I need to take away from my orange batch as well. So blue batch is eliminated. And then we're going to eliminate from the orange batch for 50 items, right? And then at the end of the day, like I've mentioned before, here, on June 30th, I should have 50 toys available, and I do. Okay? And of course, the calculated cost of goods sold, right? It just depends on how many items that you sell. But in this case right here, I reached my end goal, which is 50 toys at the end of June 30th. Right? And that's it. Okay. So, any questions? Perpetual FIFO inventory.
To me, it's a little confusing, but I think once we practice, it might make sense.
Correct. And that's what we're here for. We're going to go ahead and practice our problems, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Now, what I'm going to do is I will use colors just so that we can keep track of our inventory, right? But as we progress through the class, right, this isn't our first time we're going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at this about 3 more times, 4 more times even, okay? Because we got to do one for each one, right? So this is just FIFO. We're going to do one for LIFO. We're going to do one for moving average. We're going to do a Chapter 8 review, and then we're going to do a Chapter 7 and 8 review, right? So we're going to be exposed to this a lot. So practice is going to come in here. And what I'm going to do is as we progress through it, I'm going to start slowly taking off the colors. I'm going to slowly taking off the calculations because it's going to clutter the worksheet. But for now, let's try to understand how this worksheet works. So I'm going to go ahead and make it like as full as possible. So first thing that we're going to take a look at is that here is the scenario for the exercises. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. So first thing that we got to say here is that number 1, your inventory method is perpetual and it is FIFO. Okay. So on May 5th, we decide to purchase 1,000 units for $3 each on an account, okay, with the freight costing you $100. So for here, I just strictly only want you to practice plugging the numbers into the worksheet because we will review this later and sooner or later. We'll review how to properly do it by journalizing, going to the inventory worksheet, and then going back to the journal. But for now, I only want you to just practice plugging the numbers into the worksheet. So 1,000 units at $5 each with the freight costing you $100. So FIFO number 1, the date is May 5th, okay? We're going to skip the cost of goods sold section because we're not selling anything yet. We're dealing with purchases. So we're going to go into the middle section right here, right? Our idea is we purchased 1,000 items at $3 each with the freight costing you $100. So once again, this right here is the same for all inventory, right? We're just going to go ahead and calculate how much we actually purchased, okay? And how much it cost you in grand total. So in this case, what's my total purchase price? $3,000, right? All right, plus $100, my total cost is going to be $3,100. Okay, and then last but not least, what is going to be my cost per item?
3.1.
Yes, $3.10, right? I took my 3,100 and I divided it by my 1,000 items quantity, okay? So this is what I want you to do. Instead of cluttering your whole entire worksheet in the middle right here, I want you to transfer it into my inventory on hand. So this is the section on your far right is going to be where your goods available is going to be holding, okay? This is how you know how many items you have on hand at all times. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this amount. So I have 1,000 items. right? Costing $3.10, okay? Which, once again, equal to $3,100, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and practice with colors. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and make this one yellow since that's the first color I see here. Okay, so there's my first batch of yellow for my 1,000 of items that I just purchased on May 5th. Okay, so then let's go ahead and see what happened next. So then on May 7th, how many items did we sell?
550.
We sold 550, right? We sold it for $10 each, but right now, that's what we sold it for. In this case, right, we're going to be calculating how much it cost me to sell 550 items. So going back to your inventory worksheet, right, it is now May 7th, and we end up selling 550 units, okay? In this case, right, how much is it going to cost me per item to sell? What's my cost per item going to be? What was that? $3.10 because that's my only batch that I have. So therefore, this is what it's going to cost me to sell. So most cases, I will teach you this, right? I've taught you from last time, right? Just for safety measurements, I'm going to go ahead and practice using my equal round formula, right? Because I want to make sure that this number gives me an even, smooth number. So in this case, what is my total cost of goods sold if I sold 550 units at $3.10?
1,705.
Exactly, 1705 is my answer here. Excellent. Okay, so now, right, now that I calculated my cost of goods sold, what I'm going to do here is now I'm going to transfer the information over because I need to reflect that I got rid of it. So in this case, right, I'm going to go ahead and follow the line through, right? I sold 550 units and it cost me a total of 1705, right? I put negatives there so you guys can see I'm trying to subtract it out of my inventory. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to do some calculations here, right? If I started with 1,000 items and sold 550, how many items should I have remaining? 450, right? Same thing here. If I had a total cost of 3,100 and I end up selling 1705, how much should I have remaining?
1,395.
1,395. And because this is all associated with my yellow batch, I'm also going to color them yellow because this is all dealing with my first batch, which is the yellow batch. Okay. So that's my calculation in the middle, right? That's to show me that I'm updating my inventory, right? But what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going ahead and since I know that I sold 550, I should be left with 450 left. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to update my inventory on hand so then my goods available should reflect that I have 450 units left. Okay? And if 450 units left, costing at $3.10, it should give me $13.95 left in my total cost. Okay? So here I just plugged in my formula that I'm multiplying my quantity times my cost per item. And what I'm doing here is that my quantity is the number that I'm going to be constantly changing to constantly update my inventory. Okay, so in this
But
case, go ahead.
good question.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just lost me is why would you go back up to May 5th and change it? If May 5th you started out with the thousand and everything was correct going across, when the quantity didn't change until May 7th, right?
Right. So in this
So why?
case,
Okay, go ahead.
the okay. So in this case, right, at the end of May 7th, how much do I actually have left?
It would be the 450.
Right, but in the case, so in this context right here, the
Uh-huh.
date here, um, right, in this case, the date I placed there, yes, I placed it in there, but right here, I made it that it was looking for my purchases right here, my purchase of 1,000. So that's what that date is correlating to. Anything in your inventory on hand, dates don't really matter in this case. Well, in this case, we're keeping it in order of exactly how we're purchasing it, right? Every time we purchase something, we're going to be plugging it into our inventory on hand.
So you only enter the thousand and the previous amount just so we understand the steps. But when we practice this, we don't need to be entering because to me it's like I agree with Inga. We should have used the next line instead of going back and erasing all that. So it was just for teaching purposes where you enter the information at the beginning.
Correct. Correct. Because when I post the answers, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
post the answers and it has all these numbers that are already gone, are you going to be able to know what happened? So for this practice purposes right now, this is how I'm going to teach it, is that this is what's going on. I originally purchased 1,000 items, but I sold 550. So therefore, I'm showing my calculations here so you know why my yellow batch is now 450. But as we progress through the scenario, right, I'm going to be constantly selling, selling, selling. So this yellow batch may cease to exist. It could be gone at this point. But when I post the answers, will you know if I didn't show the work in the middle? Yeah, so, okay, without going over through the video lectures again,
Mm-hmm.
me posting the answers, you wouldn't know what happened until you went back through the videos and actually gone through the scenario again. So in this case, this is practice purpose only, but as we progress through the class, I'm not going to show any of my work in the middle. I'm just going to go directly to my inventory and just update it right there. I don't need to do this whole color either because in this case, I know exactly what came in first and what came in last because as I'm putting my numbers into my inventory on hand, I'm putting it in order. So there's no need for colors, there's no need for calculations. So this table um, pretty much allows you to update the inventory very easily. Okay. But once again, practice purposes only. This is how I'm going to teach it for you, just in case this is a better way to kind of understand where your inventory is going, right? So in this case, right, I purchased 1,000, I sold 550, so therefore I have 450 items left. Okay. So then let's take a look at what happened on May 10. What happened on May 10?
May 10th, purchased 850 units at $3.25 with the freight cost of $75.
Okay. So 850. So it's May 10 now. We purchased 850 items at $3.25 with the freight costing 75. Okay. So here, what is my total purchase price?
2762.50.
Okay. 27.62.50, good. Plus $75.
$28.37.50.
Good. And what should be my cost per item now?
What's that? 28.37.50.
Mm-hmm.
From 850. $2.41.
I did not get that.
Um, 28.37. I got 241. What am I doing wrong?
You're
I'm
not
I'm
dividing.
oh, okay. Really? Let's see. 28.37.50 times the quantity of 850. I still keep getting 241.50.
We're not multiplying.
$2.41. I'm not oh, I am multiplying. Okay. So we're dividing the 28.37.50 into the 850.
Correct. Because we're calculating how much it's gonna cost me per item.
37.50 divided. I
Mm-hmm.
keep multiplying. 333, 3.33,
Mm-hmm.
3.34. So
Okay.
is that what you got?
That's exactly what I got.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And in this case, I'm gonna carry this value over into my inventory on hand. So I have an additional 850 costing me at $3.33.8235, right? I'm keeping this in here because I don't want to round early because I'm selling thousands of items. If I round too early, I have a potential to risk to lose some money, or yeah, I have a potential to lose money here. All right, and of course, this formula is going to be my quantity times my cost per item, because this number here, right, or my quantity is going to all constantly change. So in this case, I have a second batch of inventory, right? If you want to, you can do your totals here so you know how much your running balance is at any given time. So right now, I have a total quantity of 1,300 items costing me at a grand total of $4,232.50. Okay, that's my goods available. All right. Now this one, you can keep it like this. It doesn't matter if you want to do it, but I don't choose to do it till towards the very end of my table or towards the very end of my given accounting period. But in this case, just letting you guys know that you have a running balance that you can calculate, so you know how much goods you have available at all times. All right, and then let's go ahead and just associate this with another color, just so that we could keep track of this batch of inventory. So what color do you want to select it?
The green is nice.
Okay, green. Okay, and this one is going to be the green batch because that's what we're going to make an association with. Okay, that this is batch number green. Okay. So then let's see what happened next on May 12th. We sold 360 units. Okay. So here it is now May 12th. We sold a total of 360 units. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look at our inventory on hand. All right. Which batch am I going to take out from first? My yellow or my green?
Yellow.
Yellow. And in this case, 360. I can definitely take that out from my yellow batch. Okay. And in this case, how much is it going to cost me per item to sell for my yellow batch? How much is it going to?
That's 116.
Did you?
Oh, it's 310.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. Cost per item. Okay, and you calculated it already?
Yeah, it's I multiplied 310 by 360.
Good. To give you one, $1,116. Okay. And now, once again, what I can do here is I'm going to carry my numbers down. So I'm going to carry this number down, okay? Just because I'm using my yellow batch. I don't want to, um, you know, confuse anybody where I'm getting these numbers from. So, okay, I don't know why that came out to be like that. But in this case, okay, so it's a yellow for 450. And this one is for the 13.95, okay? So that's my yellow batch, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and subtract out this value of 360, right? Okay, so if I have 450 and I'm subtracting 360, how much should I have left remaining for my yellow batch? 90. Good. So here, this is just calculating so you know exactly where these numbers are coming from and why I'm subtracting these numbers from this number. So in this case, right, what's my total cost now if I started with $13.95 and I am subtracting $11.16? How much should I have left?
I got 279.
$2.79. Again, this is all in relation to the yellow batch. Okay.
So you're subtracting the 13.95 from the 28.37.50 to
The
get to the 11.16 even?
no.
Okay.
So this is yellow. Look at my
Okay.
yellow numbers. So I right now my batch of
Oh, you see,
inventory is 450 at 13.95
Mm-hmm.
because I sold 360 units, which cost me, I calculated it to be 11.16. So now that when I'm subtracting it out, my yellow batch now should reflect that I have 90 items left at a grand total of $279.
Okay.
So I'm highlighting the color so you know exactly where the batch is coming from, which batch I'm coming from, and where I'm calculating it from. So in this case, right, I'm going to now update my inventory because now I just sold 360 items. So I know for sure I should have 90 items left, which if I calculate it right times the dollar times the $3.10, I should be left with 279 plus my green badge to give me a good available to be 940 items left, costing me at a grand total of 3,116.50. So once again, this is your running balance. This is what your goods available is right now as of June 12th. I'm sorry, May 12th. Okay? So this is what I'm doing to update my inventory is in the middle section, I'm doing my calculations. On the right hand side, I'm updating my inventory, right? As we progress through this, you don't need to have the colors. You don't need to have the workspace. Okay? But I just want to make sure that you understand where these numbers are coming from. Okay? Good so far?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's go see what happened next on May 15. So what happened on May 15?
You sold 600 units, $10 each, cash.
Good. So on, let's see, let me find it, blank one. So now it's May 15. We sold a total of 600 units. Okay. Now let's take a look at our batches of inventory. Okay. Is my yellow batch enough to cover all 600 items?
No.
No. So in this case, we would need to split and dip into both batches of inventory. So in this case, we have 90, right? But our end goal is to sell a total of 600 items. So I'm going to take 600 subtract 90 to tell me how much I need to take out from my green batch. So in this case, I need to sell 510 items to get a grand total of 600 units sold. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a calculation, all right? A calculation just so then I know that this is what it's going to cost me to sell a grand total of all 600 items. Okay, I'm just going to choose just a nice little color like that, okay? So here, my first batch of 90, right? How much is it? How much is my cost per item here for my yellow batch? 310, giving me a grand total,
279.
right? 279. And again, I can choose to subtract it out, right? 279, right? So then I get a value of 0. Okay? 0, 90 minus 90 gives you 0. 279 minus 279 gives you 0. So then you can come up here and you can cross it out saying, my yellow batch is gone. Nothing's there anymore. Okay? All I have left is my green batch. So then I need to calculate the remaining balance of 510 units that I sold out from the green batch. So in this case, what is my cost per item for my green batch?
3.338235.
And in this case, I'm going to round at the end, not round my cost per item. I'm going to keep that in my calculator, but I'm going to calculate my 510 with this huge number and round my number at the very end. So in this case, right, this is where I'm going to be using my equal round to round off my numbers. So in this case, how much is my total cost of goods sold for selling those 510 items?
I got 1,702.48.
48. So you may have rounded your number too short.
Too early. Yeah.
But it should be rounded up to 50 cents. So in this case, right, this is your grand total for selling 600 items is a grand total of $19.81.50. This, right, is for your journal because you're not going to journalize two separate transactions saying, here's for the first 90 items, here's for the 510 items. You're going to calculate it as a whole amount of the 600 units, so the total cost. Okay, so this purpose right here to calculate is for your journal purposes. Okay, but here I'm also going to pull down my green batch because now I have 850 items, right, for my green batch, and I sold 510 for a total of 1702.50, right? So therefore, how much should I have left remaining? I should have 340 items remaining for my green batch. Okay. Same thing with my total cost. If I started with 2,837.50 and I sold 1702.50, how much should I have remaining?
Is it 1,135?
Yes. Okay. And this is all for my green batch. Okay? Oops. Okay, that's all for my green batch. So now I'm going to go ahead and update my inventory on hand because now I no longer have 850, I have 340, which if I have my calculate formula in there should give me 1135 even. And here, my available goods available, I only have 340 items left available to sell. All right. So then let's see what happened next. Okay. So then on May 20th, what happened here?
You said May 20th, correct?
Yes, May 20th, yes.
Okay, so we purchased 300 units at 350 on account of freight cost $20.
So 300, 350, and 20. Okay. And it is May 20th. You purchased 350. Oops, no. 300. Let's see. 350, 300, $3.50 for 20. Okay. So $303.50 and $20 freight. So then what's my total purchase price?
Okay, so it's 1,050,
Okay. Plus $20,
1,070,
1,070, bringing, go ahead.
100. I got 3.566666, which is
Oops, wrong way. Yes. Oops, too many numbers. Okay, so there you go. 3.667. Good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right here, right underneath my green batch. So in this case, so now I know I have an order, right? I'm keeping them in order of exactly how I purchased them. So then I never have to use colors for any reason because if I keep the order of exactly how I'm purchasing my items, right? Then you know exactly what came first and what came last. Okay. Okay. So here you go. And I'm going to choose, we'll make this one blue since we're running a little out of time. So there you go, blue. Making my third batch now because I had a yellow batch, a green batch, and a blue batch. My yellow batch has been eliminated, but that doesn't mean I can use yellow. Okay, so in this case, I have a total of 3 batches, but yellow's eliminated, so I have a green batch and a blue batch. And because I have a running balance down here, now I have a total of 640 items that I can sell. Okay. So then what happened on May 22nd? Okay, so May 22nd, I end up selling 450 units. Okay. Now let's take a look at my batches, right? Do I have enough in my green batch to sell all 450 items?
No.
No. So in this case, I have to split my batches up once again. So in this case, my end goal is 450 items, right? But my green batch only has 340. So you're going to take your 450 minus the 340 to let you know how much of the blue batch you need to sell. Okay, and once again, for journal purposes only, I need to be able to record my total amount that I sell in grand total for the 450 units. So in this case, right, my green batch of 340, which is still going to cost me this amount, right? Okay. Since I'm getting rid of the entire batch, right, of my inventory, therefore, it should be a total of 1135, right? We know that because we're getting rid of the whole entire batch. Okay. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and make that note here just so that I can eliminate that from my inventory. Okay. So I'm taking my 340, subtracting 340 to make my value become 0, right? Pulling that 1135, subtracting out 1135 should bring my value to 0, which then can validate me that I can just get rid of my entire green batch and say there's nothing in there. Okay? And I'm going to also make sure you guys understand where this number came from. Right? And which batch we actually took it out from. Okay? So then last but not least, we're only left with one batch remaining, okay? And we need to take 110 out from it. So what is my cost per item for my blue batch? Good. Right, 3.667. So in this case, I need to calculate this total amount. All right? So what is it going to cost me to sell 110 items at 3.56667? Good. 392.33. All right. If I add these two numbers together, so in grand total for selling 450 items, should give me a grand total of 1527.33. Okay. And once again, I'm going to carry down my blue value and subtract out my 110. So if I started with 300 and I subtracted out 110, how much should I have available?
What was the question again?
If I started out with 300 and I subtracted 110, how much should I have available or left?
190.
190. Good. All right. Same thing here. If I started out with 1070 and I'm subtracting out $392.33, how much should be my remaining balance?
$677.67.
677.67. Correct. So once again, all of these numbers were involving my blue batch. Okay. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and update my inventory because I no longer have 300 items. I only have 190 left. And therefore, 677.67 is my ending balance. All right, and that's the total goods I have available left is only 190 items. Okay. Everyone good with me so far?
Yeah, but I still need to go back over everything because this just looks like a lot. Um, yeah, I'm with you so far.
Good. Right. So let's see what happened next. Right, so May 25th rolls around. What happened here?
So you purchased 650 units at 375.
Okay. 50, so 650 at 375.
Which I'm sorry.
Okay, what's my total purchase price?
I got 2437.50.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Plus my freight of $50.
Okay. So 2487.50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. So then what's going to be my cost per item?
Um, 382, 3.82692.
Good.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent. Good. So now that I have my fourth batch of inventory, I'm going to go ahead and place it on my inventory on hand. Okay, just so then I can reflect my total goods available. So I have an additional 650 units, all right, costing me 38269. Okay. Right? Which gives me a total cost of $2,487.50. So therefore, my total goods available that I can sell is 840 units. Right? And because I entered in a new batch of inventory, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose, I think I'm going to choose orange since it's a color we haven't used and it's contrasting. So there we go, orange. Okay. So now we have two batches left in my inventory on hand. I have a blue batch and I have an orange batch. Straightforward, right? Because we got rid of our yellow, we got rid of our green, so we have left is blue and orange. All right. So then let's see what happened last. Okay. Here on the 27th of May, we sold a total of 740 units. Okay. So then at the end of May 31st, we should have a total of 100 units on hand. Okay. So we sold 740. Okay. So it is now May 27th. We sold 740 units. Now let's take a look at our batches of inventory. Okay. We have blue and we have orange. In this case, do I have enough in my blue batch to sell a total of 740 items? No. So therefore, I'm going to be splitting it up and dipping into both inventories. So in this case, I already know my first one. I'm going to take out all of my blue batch of 190. Okay. My goal is to get to 740. So I need to subtract that out. So therefore, I'm going to be taking away 550 from my orange batch. Okay. And once again, this is for journal purposes only, right? That this is what my calculated total is going to be for selling for 740 items. Okay. In this case, my 190, all right, was for $3.566667, all right, which we know gave me a grand total. Oops, I forgot my equal around here. This number gave me a grand total of $677.67. Okay? We know that because we're taking and getting rid of the entire blue batch. So in this case, right, carry down this, subtract that, right? So therefore, if I'm getting rid of the whole entire thing, right, my value should now reflect as 0. Okay, 0 on both sides for quantity and total cost. Okay, and once again, this amount is associated with my blue batch. Oop, wrong blue. Okay, so therefore, now that it confirmed that I got rid of the entire thing, I can come up to my blue batch and said, I don't have any more of my blue batch anymore. I only have left remaining is my my orange batch, okay, which is 650 units left, okay? But in this case, I actually ended up selling an additional 550 units. So, what's my cost per item for my orange batch?
Wait. How did you get to the 550?
My goal was I need to sell a total of 740 units.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
I
and
already got rid of 190.
right.
So in this case, I just took 740, which is my end goal. If I'm getting rid of 190, how much is going to be remaining that I need to take out?
550.
550. Correct. Okay. So in this case, what is my cost per item for my orange batch?
3.826923.
Correct, right? This number here. Okay. So there you go. What is my calculated amount going to be for selling a total of 550 units at $3.8269?
I got 2,104. Oh, I cannot read my numbers. I think it's 80.
2,104.80. Is that what you just said?
Yes, I got 80, but 81 sounds correct.
Good. All right. So therefore, selling in grand total 740 items is going to give me a grand total of 2,782.48. Okay, for the journal. Okay. Now that I calculated my total amount that I'm going to be selling out of my orange batch, right, I'm going to bring down my orange batch and say, well, I sold 550. So if I start with 650 minus 550, I should be left with 100. Okay. Now, what about my total cost? If I have a total of $2487.50 and I actually got rid of $2,104.81, what should be my total cost remaining?
I got 382.69.
$382.69. Excellent. And once again, this was dealing with my orange batch, okay, of inventory. Okay. So therefore now I'm going to go ahead and update my inventory because I no longer have 650. I only have 100 left, which is going to be for 38269, which once again, that was exactly what my scenario said. At the end of May 30th, I should have, or May 31st, I don't know what date I put, I should have 100 units left on hand. And there we have it. Okay? That's how we're going to take perpetual inventory, and this is how we're going to be understanding how we're going to cost it using the FIFO method. Okay? Any questions so far? Yes, the colors are a bit excessive, but I just want to make sure that you keep track of every inventory item and making sure you know which batch you're pulling the information out from. Once again, as we progress through this, I'm going to eliminate colors, I'm going to eliminate the calculations, and just take it directly out from my inventory. Okay. So there we have it. Any questions?
No,
Okay, so it is 11:50, so we're going to have to continue this problem tomorrow since the next question is a continuation. So again, it is already 11:50, so I'm going to call the end of class today. We'll just continue this tomorrow, and we're also going to dive into 8.2, which will probably move progressively a little quicker because it's the same concept, except we're calculating it a little differently. Okay? So if you guys don't have any questions for me, then you guys are free to go. Have a beautiful rest
Inga.
of your
I
and
need to ask Inga a question.
okay, that's fine.